The Barbarian King strikes fear in those who oppose him on the Summoner's Rift, especially if the late game is upon them. Tryndamere carries a legendary status in the late game for being impossible to deal with. If Tryndamere split pushes, he will decimate any foe that stands in his way of the objective he is seeking. If you fight Tryndamere, he will literally become unkillable and destroy you with all of his rage. The late game is in his favor, and many players in solo queue respect that. However, the competitive scene doesn't. Why hasn't Tryndamere become a viable pick throughout League of Legends competitive history? How come Tryndamere cannot transfer his solo queue status into the competitive world? My name is Kudo, and today we dive into the history of Tryndamere in the competitive scene. Tryndamere's kit allows him to thrive in the late game, and it's built around his passive Battle Fury. Battle Fury is built-in momentum that is dependent on sustained aggression through auto attacks. Battle Fury also increases critical strike chance, which is essentially most of Tryndamere's auto-attacking power. Through his Fury, he is able to heal himself using his Q, Bloodlust. His W, Mocking Shout, is able to apply a slow on enemy champions running away and weaken them to give Tryndamere an edge in the skirmish. His E, Spinning Slash, gives him an opportunity to close the gap between enemies as well as escape if necessary. However, his biggest asset and what defines his late game is his ultimate, Undying Rage. He will be immune to death for 5 seconds, allowing Tryndamere to finish kills in this window of opportunity and escape. This kit is designed to give Tryndamere a huge edge in the skirmishes. Because of this, Tryndamere is utilized as a split pusher. Since Tryndamere can usually 1v1, he is capable of applying tons of pressure in a lane and take that objective so long as his team also applies pressure elsewhere on the map. By the late game, he is virtually unstoppable because his auto attacks would most likely delete a carry in a 5-second window of opportunity and escape too. So why is Tryndamere not considered meta in the professional scene if he is considered unstoppable in the late game? Let's find out by reviewing his competitive history. Tryndamere first debuted in the beginning of Season 2 during the Intel Extreme Masters in Kiev. Back then, Tryndamere's split push status wasn't developed at the time, but teams picked him for one key asset, his hyper carry abilities in the late game. Tryndamere was treated as another AD carry in the top lane. The team saved Tryndamere in the last pick to find the most favorable laning opponent. With that secured, it gives the Tryndamere pick room to develop in the early game and eventually scale into a late game monster. Kevin of SK Gaming used Tryndamere against Team Dignitas. SK Gaming wanted Kevin to be ahead in the laning phase, so they sent jungler Sleazy Wheezy to the top lane, and SK got first blood off of Voidboy's Lee Sin top.
Here comes the damage output. Oh, he kicks him back into the turret, trying to stay alive. Voidboy, though, still not in great shape. Has to flash now. Level 6, and that's going to get dropped down by the Maokai. Excellent play there by SK.
In the mid game, Kevin had one role, to clean up the team fights. Whenever Team Dignitas engaged a fight, Kevin would immediately roam and use Ghost to clean up the kills.
Yeah, there's the Polka Shot. And the knockup goes through, doing some good damage. Also with a great Black Shield. The Locust will fall, and now Cutie without any mana is not going to get away from this, almost definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to jump, but you don't have mana to jump. What is... Oh, Kevin was just waiting for the spinning slash there. Nicely done. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, Cutie is dead here.
Because of all the easily obtainable kills, Kevin became a monster when he actually grouped in the teamfight during the late game. Kevin ended game 1 of this best of 3 with 18 kills, 3 deaths, and 8 assists. Tryndamere was not seen again for the remainder of Season 2. We jump to the beginning of Season 3, however we aren't going to a specific event or date or time, we're going to the League of Legends subreddit. On January 26, 2013, Reddit user Hyfoxen made a thread titled "How is this even possible?" It was linked to a LOL King of an Eastern European account. The account name is PedoTrek1997. PedoTrek1997 was climbing the Eastern European solo queue ladder by spamming Tryndamere and building ability power on him. He had significant win streaks and ridiculous kill-death ratios. When PedoTrek saw Reddit's attention, he responded with an AMA 1 day later. PedoTrek1997 explained that he single-handedly used AP Tryndamere to climb the ELO ladder. He began from 670 ELO and climbed up to 1550 ELO. This is the equivalent of going from Bronze 5 to Gold within a span of a couple of months. AP Tryndamere was viable thanks to the AP ratios found in Bloodlust and Spinning Slash. When you build AP and cooldown and maxes E, Tryndamere has overpowering wave clear and sustain. The Spinning Slash will be up every 5 seconds and deal a tremendous amount of damage thanks to its 100% total AP scaling ratio. Since Bloodlust's AP scaling ratio is 150% and would be up every 7 seconds thanks to cooldown, Tryndamere can easily regenerate health off of hitting minions and using his Fury to heal himself. This provides Tryndamere with ridiculous sustain and buffs his split pushing power. Not only is Tryndamere's split push and sustain buffed, but so is his fighting abilities. First off, his Spinning Slash can do upwards of 600 damage to multiple enemy targets. Once it's used, he can still auto attack, and if he crits, that cooldown is reduced even more. In the teamfights, teams would have to literally kill Tryndamere twice. The Bloodlust sustain is good enough to keep him alive, but also Undying Rage gives 100 Fury to Tryndamere, which he could then use to heal himself with. Every part of Tryndamere was overpowered when someone built AP and cooldown. Peter Trek 1997 single-handedly destroyed solo queue. The statistics are as followed. 1 month after the discovery of Peter Trek 1997 and his post, Tryndamere's popularity in solo queue increased by 400%. Tryndamere's win rate also increased by 10%, putting him at the second highest win rate in solo queue in less than a month. In the inaugural LCS Spring Split, Voyboy of Team Curse and Zion Spartan of Good Game University utilized AP Tryndamere. In Team Curse's game against Team Marn, Voyboy used AP Tryndamere perfectly. He kept with the relentless split push in Mega Zero and Claky D was unable to stop him.
Now Claky defending a dead turret.
Here we go, Voyboy going in, trying to get down to Claky D. Not the damage he's looking for, but he's able to get that spinning slash in for the damage. It's going to scale too.
However, in Voyboy's next game against Counterlogic Gaming, he was prevented from reaching his full potential in level 1.
Hotshot does have teleport in case he needs to support that fight. They're going to find Void. There's a light binding right into his face. Void, you are dead. First blood goes to Chaucer, and this blue is theirs.
Because Voyboy's progress was halted, CLG was able to outsiege AP Tryndamere for the victory. This was the same case when Zion Spartan utilized Tryndamere against Team Solo Mid. Because lane swaps were prevalent in the meta, Zion had to go against TSM's bot lane X Special and Kaox. The odd one rotated top to dive him and Kaox obtained a double kill.
Looks like they are going to dance this one out. TSM did this on that third week, and they are going to go on it. This is that dive they've been so sure about. The initiations go out. They let the damage just sink in right now onto Nintendo. They get first blood. They find one for themselves. Can they continue to turn this around? Zion Spartan, does he have it up? They get a great scene of the blade over the wall. A double kill for Kaox for the one of odd one.
Just like when Voyboy was shut down, TSM was able to outsiege Zion and TSM won the game. In the same week, IEM Hanover was taking place. Millennium of EULCS went up against CJ Entus. Anguish of Millennium picked AP Tryndamere. Angus actually fulfilled the role of Tryndamere in the team composition, taking down many turrets and exerting pressure throughout the entire map. However, CJ Entus was able to catch out Anguish in numerous occasions.
Oh, Tryndamere is coming in for blue. They need to secure that one. And Anguish may actually just go down here. Gonna pop his Zhonya's there. He does have his ultimate available. Wild Growth comes down, but he's not gonna die. Is he gonna die? He's still alive. Actually goes down finally to Cloud Templar.
By the late game, CJ Entus was able to outscale the entire Millennium team composition. Angus was rendered useless in the last team fight.
Mudlife will speed himself away. Anguish getting caught by Woong in the middle, but Woong is going to get slowed. This could be disastrous. In comes Shen. There's the Virus ultimate. True Shot Barrage comes across. Cloud Templar getting in there as well as Anguish goes very low, but his ultimate's running. Fat Mama going to go down there. Anguish is surely going to die as well. That is 4 kills. And there's a laser. It's an ace for Frost. They're gonna win the game. My God.
In patch 3.3, AP Tryndamere was no longer viable. Riot nerfed the AP scaling and his bloodlust. Solo queue returned to normal when this patch came out. Normal AD Tryndamere was played by Voyboy in the remainder of Season 3, but the majority of those games were losses. All of these games had Voyboy remain even during the laning phase. However, in the middle to late game, Tryndamere's split push presence is completely mitigated by the macro decisions made by the opposing team. We will analyze these losses later. After Voyboy, nobody has ever picked Tryndamere in the North American LCS ever since. He completely fell out of favor after Season 3. Tryndamere has since seen sporadic play in major regions, but none have contributed to major wins, only losses. The last win of Tryndamere was in 2017 in the OPL when Avant-Garde top laner Series played him against Exile 5. He was able to get ahead in the early game, and Series was able to utilize his split push because the 4 other members of Avant-Garde were ahead as well. Overall, Tryndamere has not seen consistent play ever. Ever since Season 3, Tryndamere has fallen out of favor completely. In fact, throughout the entirety of 2016, Tryndamere was not played once in the professional scene. Out of the VODs available, here is why Tryndamere was and still is not considered meta. To answer this question, we must consider the one thing Tryndamere is most dangerous for, his split pushing capabilities and his late game scaling. And that is all he is known for. His teamfight is horrible compared to the standard top lane meta picks. His contributions inside the teamfight are subpar because he can easily be bursted down even when he has his ultimate. While Tryndamere can create serious pressure on the map with his split push, competitive teams can easily shut this strategy down in many numerous ways. First off, enemy teams can easily allocate tons of assets to shut down Tryndamere in the early game. This is done by either counter-picking him in lane or ganking him before level 6. Back when the 1v2 lane swaps were prevalent, Tryndamere couldn't hold his own compared to other top laners. These lanes can easily shut down Tryndamere's ability to farm and scale into the late game.
Set Insect back just a little bit there.
Alex, the damage coming in here on towards Mudlife. Oh, one of them pulls him in there, he's exhausted. The heal comes up and leaves
If Tryndamere doesn't win the early game, he will not be able to split push because the team can easily kill and out-siege him. Even if Tryndamere can leave the laning phase going even or having a lead, a competitive team would just instead shut down the 4 remaining members. Remember, Tryndamere's goal is to split push away and exert pressure. But if his teammates cannot hold their own or exert pressure themselves, it makes the split push completely useless. This is exactly how Voyboy lost all his other games on AD Tryndamere. The enemy team would just engage 4v4 and win, and Tryndamere would be forced back to defend. The split push strategy requires the 4 remaining members to win out their lanes and hold their own against the enemy team. If that's not the case, Tryndamere's split push cannot be possible. Another thing to note is that crowd control can stop Tryndamere's ability to do tons of damage. Tryndamere needs to be in melee range since all of his damage comes from his auto attacks. Any sort of slows applied onto him in the teamfights can easily ruin his capability to carry. Because of this need to be in melee range, teams can easily build team compositions that can kite Tryndamere.
He's staying in spider form so he can kick out the damage. Double lift on one side.
Oh, he knocked him back!
Buster shot away, saves Chauster's tail. He swims off the safety. Big Fat still looking for safety there. He may actually die to the wolves. He goes in for the fight, repels, links on the other side. They come down with the kill. The unity of CLG. Niet now running for the team. They give him help as Voyboy's turning tide.
Chauster, the only member of CLG to die there. That's the kiting ability of CLG. Voyboy goes back in, but Link is there.
Link's there with the shield. That means the speed up and the slowdown is too. He sits on the dissonance and he has no chance at getting back the shutdown onto Voyboy.
Overall, all of Tryndamere's advantages are taken away in the professional scene. Tryndamere's ability to scale into the late game can easily be stopped in the early game. His split push can be mitigated by the coordination of the opposing team. Instead of the hypercarry monster he is known for in solo queue, Tryndamere can be considered useless in the competitive world. Maybe one day a professional player can pull out Tryndamere and give him the respect he deserves. But due to the high risk nature of that pick, the gut of this individual would have to be as strong as the right arm of the Barbarian King. My name is Kudo, and thank you for watching.
Void though in a 1 versus 2 is going to jump in, but he's got St. Vicious. Does he have the damage that he needs? The ulti was actually burned early on by Void. True Shot Barrage?
Does he find him? No.
Doesn't guess right.
Well, he guessed right. Voyboy went left.
Oh
God.
Kobe, no,
Sorry,
that was amazing. No, that was great. It's 3 p.m. It's not getting late. That was awesome.